Hello, my name's Andy Polaine, and these are my responses to the Service Design Pulse questions based on my presentation at the Service Design Global Conference. I think that the design project has actually been quite a success. If you look back longer than this last couple of years where everyone's been complaining about all the layoffs and everything like that, design in the last 10, 15, 20 years has really kind of made its way into business and organizations of all kinds, from public services to private enterprise. And I think it's been a real success. I think the fact that the terminology that we use in design is now well known and it's not this alien concept. I think the fact you're seeing designers and roles for designers and service designers in particular advertised for things like government departments and healthcare and welfare and telcos and all the rest of them is a real testament to the fact that that has actually been successful, even though some of those people have then been, after the big hiring, some of those people have been let go. I think most products and services are a lot better than they used to be, even 10 years ago and certainly 15 years ago. So I think service design's impact there has been really to help orchestrate some of that and help align people, help map out, in particular, lots and lots of siloed and different departments who've been working independently and actually start to create these coherent wholes. Probably one of the most clearest examples of this is government digital services in the UK, where you had all of these different government departments, all with their own websites, all with their own domains. And over time, that has then become all under one thing with one kind of process and one approach and one design system and way of going about that that's made a big difference. I'm an AI skeptic, and I'm not an AI skeptic because I think AI is rubbish or it doesn't do anything. I'm an AI skeptic because I think the claims that are made about it are far, far greater than its actual ability, and that they require quite a lot of human oversight to deal with the things like hallucinations and biases and all those things. And perhaps more importantly, the energy and water actually costs of AI are enormous. And at the moment, we're living in a false world of economies and business models around this, because we're burning through wealthy people's billions in order to support it. So the price of AI is fake at the moment, as are some of the outputs. So I think it will have an impact. I can see it obviously as a supporting tool. I can see it helping people. I can see it as maybe taking on some of the common frontline support tasks. I think it's a massive mistake if companies think they're just going to replace all of those people, though, with AI, because I think what it'll do is it'll just push the problem somewhere else in the organization. And that happens all the time. I don't think that's anything new from the chatbots that have been around for quite some time, through to offshoring call centers, through to other savings like self-serve, where people go online and they serve themselves rather than reaching out to support. All of those things, some of those things, they do have savings, and service designers are sometimes responsible for the impact of that on people's lives in the sense that, a whole bunch of people get let go from a call center. But then they often do just push the problem elsewhere. So that's my feeling. I think it's probably one or two bad lawsuits away from people pulling those things back out. I think it's amazing to me, incredulous to me, to think that companies who would fire a support employee for a tiny little kind of mistake are quite happy to let an AI kind of chatbot loose and cause havoc with their customers and all the brand damage that does and trust damage that does. So I think there'll be a few of those. I think there'll be a couple of them where it'll be a major thing, and then I think some of that stuff will get rolled back. I think for the role of designers, it depends on how organizations feel about design. If they see design as just a vehicle to make mock-ups of their ideas to get to engineering, then sure, they're going to try and replace that with AI. But I think then what will happen is there's a massive push towards a kind of mediocre middle, which might be fine for some companies, but it won't be for others. AI is still very lacking in taste and discernment. So my presentation was all about thinking about impact on the personal level. And we all want to think about impact on the planet and, society and all of those things, because those are big, wicked problems we are all afraid of and worried about. I actually think that the bigger impact you have is in your kind of immediate sphere over life. And it's bigger than you think because of this ripple effect, right? So there are students that I've taught, for example, many years ago who are now in senior positions of leadership. And, sometimes they get in touch and they tell me things that really stuck with them. And I've had that myself, obviously, with people who have taught me or have, worked with me. And that can be quite a big ripple effect. And so the movie would probably be the famous James Stewart black and white movie, It's a Wonderful Life, that's set around Christmas. And he kind of thinks his life has gone terribly wrong and the world would be better without him. And he's about to jump off a bridge into a river. And this angel appears. And the angel shows him, okay, well, this is what your life would look like if you hadn't been there. And it takes him around and sees all of how terrible other people's lives would have been had he have not been there. And so that would be my movie. I think you start where people are. So you don't think of it as being design driven, because that sounds like you're trying to take control, or that design has somehow got this special superpower that nobody else has. But I would think more about design enabled. It's fine for other people to not care about design. It's not their job. It's not their expertise. They care about the things that they are supposed to be caring about. In the same way as it's probably not your job to really care about how the accountancy is done or how facilities do their work until the point where it overlaps with yours or other people's. So I think really the place to start is to think about shared outcomes and what you're trying to achieve. I think what design does bring as a kind of superpower is the ability to make some of those abstract things visible, whether that's just with diagrams or mapping stuff out, or whether that is actually showing what a future might look like through prototypes, sketches, videos, all the rest of it. And that's a thing that designers often overlook, that's something they can do very, very easily. And for other people, they cannot. That's why people sit through lots and lots and lots of alignment meetings trying to understand what each other's thinking, because with PowerPoint decks and Excel sheets and Word documents, instead of making a thing and so that everyone can look at that and go, oh, right, now we both see that thing, and well, no, that's not what I had in mind. And the other person can say, okay, well, this is what I was thinking of. It cuts out a whole lot of that stuff. So that's one of the things that you can do. But you have to gain trust, right? You have to gain trust that working in this way has better outcomes, and not try and push the method. Because when you're pushing method, what you're saying to people is the way you're working is rubbish. You should work the way I work. And of course, everyone thinks that. So this is one of those problems which ladders up to late stage capitalism. Right? So part of the problem about short-term gains, if you then think, well, why do people want short-term gains, is often because it's driven by quarterly cycle reporting, and that's a part of the way things are structured. And for public companies, that's obviously what investors and the market expect, and sometimes it's legally mandated, right, that they do it. And so that's one of the reasons for all the layoffs. So the quickest way to boost your share price, and if you're a CEO whose bonus depends on that, is to fire a load of people, get rid of your headcount, because that's your biggest cost alongside buildings, right? So that's one issue, which is you can't necessarily fight against that. What you can do, though, is ladder up and talk about risk. So really, when you ladder up the reason for doing any of the work we're doing in service design, and thinking about why would you have more service designers? Why would we want to try and make sure this is a connected experience and so forth, or understand what people actually need? If you just bang on about design process, nobody cares, right? But if you ladder it up and ask the question of, so what, who cares? Why does that matter? Then you'll eventually get to the point where you'll say, well, it needs to be a coherent experience. Well, why is that? Why does that matter? Well, people will have less problem using our service, and we're going to kind of have less support costs, or we're going to know where to better place our resources because we know what people actually need, rather than just guessing because we don't know the future. And eventually you get to making more money, saving money through efficiencies or being more effective and mitigating risk. And mitigating risk is really saving money in disguise. But those are all things that businesses really care about. And some of those things are long term as well. Design has a perennial problem, though, having said that, which is a lot of our skill is about extrapolating into the future and understanding, and particularly I think service designers do this a lot, of thinking, okay, I can see how if we do this, it connects to everything else and how that's going to unfold, or I can map it out, or we can think through it. And it's part of what you learn as a designer. The problem with it is that if it goes well and people do that, and what you suggest, you're making a claim that you have saved us from a hypothetical future problem or failure that never happened, right? Because you did the right thing. And that's quite a hard claim to make because, how would you know that bad thing didn't happen? And it's much, much harder to make the claim for that than it is for, I fixed this thing, or, this thing was a massive problem and I fixed it, because that's more easily claimable. But I think that's our lot. We have to do better at storytelling around that. Thank you very much. I hope those have been useful for you.